Hello, Frugal Force. This is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and I'd first like to say thank you for joining me today in this video. So you might be wondering, what should I collect if I'm collecting games in 2019? Well, just be up front and be 100% honest, I am not a game collector, though it might look like it because we have well over 500 games. I'm not a game collector. We buy games to actually play them in my house. So we don't buy them to sit them on a shelf and never, ever, play them. Though I will say there is a couple instances where I'm like, oh my gosh, do I really want to play this game? Because I have it sealed and unopened, and it's the value right now in the market selling on eBay, for example, is astronomical. Now, I don't believe in price charts 100% because really a value of a game or any item is only what somebody's willing to pay for it. But I will say what I go by like average sales. You could find them on Craigslist and things like eBay and see what they average out around. And I will say pricecharting.com is a really good site for tracking that kind of thing. So I'm going to be using pricecharting.com as an index a little bit to help with this video. And by the way, I use that site. It's a great way to keep track of your video games and what you have in your inventory. So I do use that a lot. Alright, so getting into what do you collect in 2019? Well, if you look, it's what I tell people is people think backwards. It's like the stock market. People want to go and buy the hot stock and pay the premium price, where you should be looking at the other things that are not the premium price. Look at for what the deals are if you're a collector, because that's how you're going to build your collection. Because if you're running for what's hot right now, you're paying top dollar, whereas if you're looking for things that are not the hot trend, you can get them a lot cheaper, and then eventually when they come in to vogue, if you will, they come into that popularity, then the price value will shoot up. So that's why it's good to grab them when they're cheap and not want it as much, because then you can get doubles, trade bait, things like that for when the values, they do become more desired at that time period and the values go up, and they do fluctuate up and down. For example, if you look at like pricecharting.com, you could see Atari, just so you know, in the 90s was really going for top dollar prices. They were going for high prices. And for example, like the 2600, now it's really leveled off and you can buy Atari 2600 games very, very cheap. Whereas the surge for the last few years, I'd say maybe 5 years? Well, no, 8 years. 8 years. 8 years. NES games have been hot commodity and going up significantly in price. Same basic deal that you can find with the Super Nintendo. Those have been trending up. So what I tend to find is game collecting tends to be generational. You'll see that generation wants the games of their youth, and so the demand shoots up significantly on those games. So my prediction is probably the next surge we're going to be seeing more desire for is probably things like maybe Nintendo, PlayStation a little bit, though they show that there's still a little bit flat line in sales, but you can really start to see this growth, for example, in Nintendo 64. For the last few years, the Nintendo 64 game prices have been going up because it's been going up in demand. So I think we're going to see that increase in Nintendo 64 continue, and then maybe a little bit in PlayStation and things like Sega 32X. So my suggestion is buy the things like the Atari right now if you enjoy those kinds of games, because they're really cheap. Or you could still buy Xbox One, not the new one, the original Xbox, Xbox 360 especially, because the 360 prices are plummeting. You can buy them cheap, as well as PlayStation 2 has been fairly low right now and flat. So if you want to stock up your collection and you like games from PlayStation 2, Xbox 360 era, those are great systems to collect for. I am buying these games up dirt cheap and loading up my shelves with lots of great games. Once again, I don't just buy them to sit them on the shelf. I buy games I want to play, and therefore my collections went up significantly. So don't rule those out. Another thing, too, that you might want to get if you're a game collector, and this will be a little bit harder, is because we're starting to get more games like limited run games. So if you want ones that are physical copies, but there's going to be very select few made, this might be the time to get those current games, because they're going to go up and be harder to get later on. So that's another throwback too. I tend to get game systems when they're a generation behind and a lot cheaper, but for collectability purposes, if you get them when they're new, it's going to be easier possibly than later. It depends. Try to catch them on deals, things like that, depending on if it's going to have the same. But for especially ones that you think are going to be hard to get, the common ones, don't worry about. They're going to be, getting them 3 for $10 later on, or 3 for $15 at blowout sales and things like that. But the ones that are hard to get, those you might want to snag early. So that's my overall thoughts on that for price-wise. But here's my biggest thing. Get what you enjoy. Get what you're passionate about. If you want to start collecting something, why would you get something you're not enjoying? For example, I mentioned Atari. Atari's not for everybody. I'm older, so I grew up with that generation, so I have nostalgia for that, and I really enjoy those Atari games. And my kids enjoy them as well, but they're not for everybody. The simplistic one-button games with very simplistic graphics that make you have to really imagine things are just not for all. So if you don't dig Atari, you don't care for it at all, don't buy it. Other systems, though, of that era you might enjoy are like the Coleco and Intellivision. They're a step up graphically and complexity and things from the Atari 2600, but they're still close to right around that same generational period, and they're still quite collectible. Or even yet, maybe get a hold of a Vectrex if you like a Vectrex. I still want one of those and haven't been able to get a hold of one of them. Or maybe dive into the computers, but I'd be very careful with computers, because computers is a very mixed bag and hard to, you have to know your computer stuff. You have to get back into coding and things like that. Though I will say I love the Commodore 64. There were some Atari computers and things like that. But once again, not for everybody. So find what you're passionate about. Don't jump onto the biggest bandwagon trends. You'll get a lot more for your money. It'll allow you to build up trade bait and things. Like, for example, I have several games where I have doubles of. I can always sell those off or use them to trade for somebody else for a game I do want. So just, consider that, what you're passionate about and what do you really want. And another thing I'd like to warn you is, are you only buying the game to sit on yourself? If that's really what you're doing, is that what you really want? Because unless you have a passion for that, your money can go a lot farther in a lot of other ways. In investment periods, for example, you're probably not going to make massive money investing in video games. Sure, you can make some, but you could have made better money with a Roth IRA or a good 401k. So if you're doing this for money, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. If you're doing it for a passion and love for it, make sure you keep that passion and love. Is it worth having? And then don't forget, you have the maintenance and care for all that stuff too. For example, if you're buying consoles and things, they're all hardware, and hardware will eventually die. So one thing I've been doing with my collection is I've been buying backup consoles. So when I find them super cheap, I snag too. Like recently, I snagged a Wii and a PlayStation 2 for with a bundle, ton of games, I think for $30. So each system costs less than $15. Right now, the Xbox One is not the original. I have 2 of those already. The new Xbox One is really pretty cheap on Craigslist and things, so I'm starting to consider getting one of those because the backwards compatibility of it. So there's my tips. Once again, find what you're passionate about. 2, don't buy into all the trends, okay? And keep yourself motivated by buying what you enjoy. So don't overspend, and remember, don't blow all your money on everything. You have to still consider the priorities. This is a hobby. This isn't life. It's just a part of life. Don't spend yourself into the poorhouse. You have to be smart about it. All right, maybe I'll do another video soon too on how I get my games. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'll do another video on how I game chase, if you will, and go about getting them, because my wife, my son, my daughter, and I, we actually all do it together. Okay, and that makes it fun. It's a family affair in my house. All right, thanks for watching this video. By the way, if you do enjoy these videos, please be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. YouTube has been very, very rough with us lately, so make sure you hit that notification bell. They've been removing a lot of my subscribers. I don't know why. They haven't been sharing my videos with the metrics. Once again, I don't know why. If you also want to help this my channel, and you could go to our Patreon link down below in the info bar, and you could contribute for as little as $1 a month. We'd greatly appreciate that. Or even a one-time gift that you can do on there as well. And we even have merch. If you like t-shirts and things like that, hey, great. You can get those too, and you can help support our channel. We greatly appreciate it. All the new subscribers as well as the old subscribers that have been with us from the beginning. So thank you very much, and until next time, keep it frugal.